Hi everyone! Today I'll be summarizing a review article that looks at sex differences in how men and women use and store glucose and fat in the body. Even though men and women have the same body weight or BMI, they don't necessarily burn or store energy in the same exact ways. These differences can help explain why men often have higher risks of metabolic diseases like type 2 diabetes, even though they typically have less body fat than women. When we're at rest, like during overnight resting periods and between meals, women tend to release more fatty acids from their fat tissue compared to men, as relative to their energy needs. But even though they release more fat, they also clear it faster and store it much more efficiently, especially in subcutaneous fat. This ability to restore fatty acids helps protect women from fat buildup in the liver and muscles, which can lead to insulin resistance. In contrast, men tend to store more fat around their internal organs, or visceral fat, which is generally linked to higher increased rates of cardiovascular and metabolic diseases. In terms of glucose, both sexes have similar fasting glucose production when adjusted for lean body mass. However, women may have a slightly higher total glucose production because they generally have more body fat, which also uses glucose. So what happens after eating meals? Well, after meals, both men and women tend to absorb fats into the bloodstream as chylomicrons. These are commonly fat-carrying particles. Men tend to have higher blood triglyceride levels after eating, which means their bodies are slower at clearing these fat particles. Women, on the other hand, tend to clear them more quickly, likely because their fat cells have more lipoprotein lipase, which is an enzyme that helps to store fat. Even though fat oxidation, or fat burning, is similar between the sexes after eating, women tend to store more of their meal fat into their leg fat, while men tend to store it into in their belly area. When both sexes eat more calories than needed, men tend to burn more of the excess fat, while women tend to store it, which possibly can support their own respective reproductive needs. So how do the role of hormones play into all of this? Well, hormones like estrogen and testosterone play a big role in how the body handles fat. For example, when women go through menopause and lose estrogen, they tend to store more fat in the belly and burn less fat after meals. Similarly, men with low testosterone can burn less fat and may store more of the fat into their legs. These hormonal changes affect not just where the fat is stored, but also how the body responds to insulin, as well as how it controls blood sugar. That's why hormone levels and changes in those levels are important to consider when thinking about long-term metabolic health. In summary, men and women process fat and glucose differently, not just because of size or muscle mass, but because of the differences in fat storage patterns, enzyme activity, and hormone levels. This research helps us understand why disease risks differ between sexes, and it shows us that personalized treatment based on sex and hormones could improve how we manage and prevent conditions like obesity, heart disease, and type 2 diabetes. Thanks for listening, and I look forward to sharing more next week. Bye-bye.